Hi, this is Neil, and I'm collaborating with the great HPC Today magazine on the Surfactant Insights podcast. We've heard a lot recently about biosurfactants and bio-based surfactants. Why is that? What's driving this seeming exponential increase in interest in these types of surfactants recently? And what's the difference between these terms? Well, we know what bio means, right? It's short for biogenic carbon. And Google's Gemini tells me that is carbon that's part of the natural carbon cycle, meaning it's stored in or emitted by living organisms and organic matter. This includes carbon found in trees, plants, and soil. Non-biogenic carbon is found in fossil fuels, like oil, coal, and natural gas. Surfactants built on biogenic carbon are interesting because they're commonly held to be more sustainable than those built on petrochemicals. This may or may not be true depending on the specifics of each case. However, many large consumer product companies like P&G, Unilever, and L'Oreal have set corporate sustainability targets which include lowering greenhouse gas emissions and increasing the proportion of biogenic inputs to their operations. For many consumer cleaning products, especially mass-marketed shampoos, liquid soaps, and laundry detergents, the largest ingredient in the bottle by weight after water is surfactant. And so, to move the needle on formulation sustainability, you have to look at the surfactant. And, by the way, the type and amount of surfactant used drives both cost and performance. Surfactants are key. It's not just companies. Consumers are increasingly interested in sustainability and what's in the bottles of products that they use in their homes, on their clothes, and on themselves on a daily basis. This interest and, in some cases, concern ripples back through the supply chain to the manufacturers of surfactants and other ingredients. Rightly or wrongly, and I would say in many cases wrongly, bio is equated with good, safe, clean, and healthy, with no further consideration by the consumer. Fine, but remember that the bacteria looking to contaminate your shampoo is certainly bio-based, and the sodium benzoate preservative protecting you against that doesn't have a biogenic bone in its body. And finally, regulators. They're consumers too, subject to the same motivations and impressions. Recent regulations around dioxane, ethylene oxide, and palm oil provenance and traceability in both the US and Europe have all opened the door to greater consideration of more and different sources of biogenic carbon being used in surfactants. So what's the difference between biosurfactants and bio-based surfactants? Well, I'll go again to Google's Gemini, and it tells me that a biosurfactant is a surface-active compound produced by microorganisms. I agree with that. Today we're talking about things like phosphorolipids and rhamnolipids. Notice, however, it says nothing about biogenic carbon. That's understood. If you're feeding the microorganisms with sugar, vegetable oil, or both, then that's biogenic. If, however, your organisms are feeding on crude oil or some derivative of crude, then presumably the resulting fermentation products are not biogenic, but still biosurfactants, if they are surface active. I think this is a fringe case, at least as far as I'm aware. That leaves bio-based surfactants as those surfactants comprised of biogenic carbon which are not produced by microorganisms. This would include palm kernel oil-based alcohol sulfates and ethoxylates, at least the alcohol part, as well as many derivatives of sugar and fatty acids, including APG, alkyl polyglucosides. This group would also include surfactants made via traditional chemistry from biogenic feedstocks, which themselves have been made by microorganisms via fermentation. Such feedstocks could be oils or alcohols or other intermediates. Now, what about surfactants made from carbon captured in the form of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere? Well, these are going to be mostly biogenic, between 70 and 90% as determined by Grok, Gemini, and Perplexity between them. Unless, of course, that carbon dioxide is pulled out of a steelworks chimney, in which case it would be all non-bio. In both cases, though, the carbon is being removed from the atmosphere. And if you believe that carbon removal from the atmosphere is a good thing, you should be pleased, for a while at least, until the surfactant is flushed down the sink and makes its way back into the broader ecosystem. And finally, what about biomass balance products? Shell, Ineos, Moeve, and others have published some good explanatory material on this product type. In summary, the producer replaces part of their crude oil or natural gas input to their refinery with a vegetable input. The bio-credit, if you like, from that biogenic input is then attached to a specific output, which could be a detergent range alcohol or linear alkyl benzene or ethylene oxide. The use of this biomass balance product thus avoids the use of non-biogenic carbon and results in a lowered product carbon footprint. Permanently, it would seem. So where does that leave the users and producers of surfactants? It leaves them with choices, and that's a good thing in my opinion. I have long argued the benefits of a balanced portfolio, and so today, as part of that portfolio, we can choose among the following: Sophoro and rhamnolipid biosurfactants from emerging, still relatively small-scale producers like Evonik, Holoferm, Amphistar, and BioRenuva. Novel bio-based surfactants from companies like Integrity Biochem, Norfalk, Saronic, and others. Bio-based surfactants to be made soon from fermented feedstocks, such as alcohols from Future Origins or oils from C16 Biosciences. Well-established and large-scale bio-based APGs, sulfates, ether sulfates, and ethoxylates built on palm kernel oil and similar oils from companies like BASF, KLK, Musimas, Stepan, Pilot, and many, many others around the world. Products made from captured carbon by companies like Econic. Biomass balance products mentioned above, available at quite large scale today. So there we are. A lot of choices and factors to weigh in making those choices. It's possible I've missed some, and I'm sure you'll write in to let me know. In the meantime, thanks again, as always, for listening.